Well, today is July 24th, which supposedly was going to be the end of the current lockdown, which started on July 9th. But the government has decided we're going to be staying in lockdown social distancing order until the 8th of August. So, anyway, the beach is deserted as usual, and it will remain that way for roughly 2 more weeks. And it is a Saturday here in Nha Trang. A bit of traffic, but certainly less than a normal time. And if you look out at night, it's very noticeable how quiet it is after about 9 o'clock at night. It's rare to see even a motorbike or car on the street. I believe the police have checkpoints and have been known to pull over motorbikes or cars to see if they actually have a valid reason for being out. And at the moment, you're supposed to only be going out for food shopping, maybe pharmacies, medical emergencies, or if you're working at a place that's allowed to remain open. So anyway, the pandemic goes on, and the current lockdown goes on. But I've been wondering and thinking a wee bit about some things, such as the fact that as of now, Vietnam is surpassing Japan in the number of new COVID cases, and the 7-day average is also higher in Vietnam than Japan, which is a bit surprising considering that Vietnam has been in pretty strict lockdown mode the last 14 days or 15 days, not to mention before that there have been lockdowns in various cities. And from what I understand, in Japan it is more of a situation where the government suggests that businesses close at a certain time and that people work from home, whereas I don't think there's been many businesses forcibly closed in Japan, whereas in Vietnam, since this recent outbreak happened in Nha Trang anyway, there has not been one taxi on the street. There haven't been the usual street side banh mi and other food vendors, even for takeout. And, just in general, people have been told to stay home for anything other than emergency travel. So it is rather interesting to take a look at statistics here. For example, I believe this is the latest figure I got, which might be for July 23rd, 22nd or 23rd, I'm not 100% sure. But Japan had 5,366 new cases in the latest day that figures were given, and the 7-day average was 3,840. Meanwhile, Vietnam had 7,125 cases in the most recent figure, new cases, and the 7-day average was 5,140, so well over 1,000 more cases per day in Vietnam on average for the last week. And like I say, that has been done with fairly strict social distancing rules, quite a number of people being held in quarantine, certain neighborhoods being put into quarantine. Basically, no one who doesn't live there can enter or exit those neighborhoods. I don't think Japan has done much of anything on that level. So, it's a little strange. I mean, overall, Vietnam certainly has done better than Japan. I believe Japan's total cases up to now has been 859,000. That's versus 193,000 in Vietnam. So quite a lot more total cases in Japan, although the pandemic has certainly been going on, infecting people longer there than here, it seems. And Vietnam has had several periods where there were no new cases. And the other statistic would be deaths. Japan has had 15,000 deaths, 15,052 to be specific, while Vietnam has had 370 deaths. So overall, Vietnam has done better than Japan, but recent statistics are kind of frightening to see that Vietnam is doing worse than Tokyo. And it's also makes you kind of wonder about the efficacy of quarantining people and things like that. Okay, just to add a little bit of an aside here, I believe Ho Chi Minh City, and I think other cities in Vietnam, Nha Trang is one of them that's just instituted this. They have been doing mandatory testing of the entire population of certain cities that have outbreaks. In Nha Trang, we are having a COVID test for pretty much the entire population, which has been taking place over the last week or so, and will likely continue for a while. So, as anyone would agree that when you do have massive testing, you're going to likely come up with more cases. So that could be part of the explanation why Vietnam, with slightly under 100 million people, has more new daily cases than Japan, which I believe has a population of about 125 million. Japan may not be testing nearly as much as Vietnam is. And as has been stated, a lot of people, the majority of people who get COVID, either have no symptoms or very mild ones. So it is quite possible that people in Japan may come down with COVID and just stay at home, get over the disease, and they're not really diagnosed as having had COVID. Whereas in Vietnam, they're pretty adamant that anyone with symptoms should identify himself or herself and go to a clinic or to a government facility for isolation. So there could be that aspect of it too that is going on. But it does, it does kind of make me wonder, though, that Japan, with its relatively lax lockdown, if you want to call it. I mean, it's far from a lockdown. The trains are running. People are going to work. I mean, many people are still working in their offices or whatever. As far as I know, most restaurants have been allowed to remain open at least until maybe 8 o'clock at night. So there are some restrictions, but even those, I believe, are more suggestions, more voluntary. Japan doesn't quite have the authoritarian nature of Vietnam. So, considering what has gone on there in Japan and the laxer rules, and yet at this late stage in the pandemic, with the Delta variant seeming to be the predominant one around the world, it is rather strange that Japan is getting lower COVID numbers, new case numbers, than Vietnam. Part of the reason could be that Japan may have more people vaccinated. I don't have any statistics on those numbers, but Vietnam, I believe, has slightly under 5% of its population vaccinated. There is a major push going on to get 5 million vaccinations done in Ho Chi Minh City in the near future, which has the majority of the cases in Vietnam. And Ho Chi Minh City also is beating Tokyo, having more new COVID cases than Tokyo is. So I do think in Japan, maybe the pandemic is spread out more evenly in that Tokyo has quite a lot of cases because it's the biggest city, but also other places have a reasonable number of COVID cases. Where in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, I believe, has around 10 times as many cases as the next highest city. So if Ho Chi Minh City might have 2,000 cases per day, I believe the next highest outbreak is maybe 200 cases in some other city. Of course, Ho Chi Minh City is by far the largest city in Vietnam. Anyway, just something I'm wondering about. I mean, I've been a fan of the fact that Vietnam has reacted to each outbreak quite strictly by doing quarantining and social distancing and things like that. But on the other hand, some people are starting to wonder just how effective that is considering the current numbers of new cases. So we shall see, and hopefully this next 14 days of stay-at-home order will result in very few new cases, at least in smaller cities like Nha Trang, which have probably Nha Trang and its surrounding province, I believe, is generally getting fewer than 50 cases a day. I believe it did get a little bit over 100 new cases, but that was fairly briefly. So since the recent stay-at-home orders, social distancing orders, I believe the numbers in this province called Con Hoa province have fallen fairly dramatically to 40 or fewer. And I believe Nha Trang City itself, which has a population of roughly 500,000, is getting quite a low number of new cases. I really don't have a number to pull out for you. It varies day to day. I believe they release a new tally every 12 hours, and so sometimes there may be only 5 or 10 cases over a 12-hour period, but then the next 12-hour period may have considerably more. But anyway, that's pretty much the situation here in Nha Trang. And as far as I know, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi are also doing the social distancing order until at least August 8th. And it does appear that it's going to take a bit longer in Ho Chi Minh City to get this under control, because when you're getting 2,000 or 3,000 new cases a day, obviously it's spreading pretty fast, versus if you're in a place with fewer than 100 cases a day, it's a little bit easier to isolate people under those situations. So that's the update here from Nha Trang. As you may notice, the water is not nearly as clear as usual. I'm not quite sure why that is. The ocean conditions change day to day, obviously. Could be that there are rainstorms further upriver from here, from the Kai River, which empties into the sea here, not so far from here. Nha Trang itself has not had much rain in the last couple of weeks. I believe we had some a few days ago. But the water quality, clarity is certainly less than previously. Anyway, stay safe out there, and hopefully, eventually, the pandemic will grind to a halt. But as an article I just read said, this new variant is out there looking for you. So do what you can to not let that new variant grab you if you haven't been vaccinated yet.